With flow phonation, we're going to really want to emphasize the use of controlled airflow and have the client get their thoughts centered around using all of their lips in that motion, which will then help them produce the sound and be able to shape their articulators around our controlled airflow. So we're going to start off with our skill number 1, the airflow release, and this is the unarticulated part. So I would instruct the client to do the gargling technique. And so first I would say, okay, we're going to extend our head back and you're going to gargle water, but don't make any noise. And so I would demonstrate like this. And then once our client has done that and they feel comfortable with that, we're going to move on to gargling with noise. So kind of what you would do if you were brushing your teeth and you were spitting out your water, you would gargle. And so I'd say, okay, we're going to add some voice with it. And while they're doing that, you want to watch to make sure they're not chopping up their breath while they do that, and they can have a complete control of airflow in their throat. So then once they have done it with water, we're going to do, okay, let's sit upright, and you're going to look forward, and your head's going to be forward. We're going to make the gargling noise without water and without extending our head. So it'd be, and you want to watch for their airflow right there to make sure they can produce a full stream of air. This doesn't always work for all clients, like Dr. Perrine said. So if gargling is not something that the client does or can do, then we're going to move on to the U prolongation. So with U prolongation, we're going to show them and make sure we say that all the feeling should be right here at the lips. And so that's going to remind them that they're not going to be thinking about their larynx, they're going to be thinking about their lips right here, which won't make them think about their voice too much. So we're going to say, okay, we're going to do our U shape with our mouth, and we're going to do no voicing. So turn your voice off, and we're going to watch how the air moves our tissue like this. And you want to really want to emphasize all the feeling should be on your lips, and you can show them the sound and make sure that they see the airflow that's going onto your tissue. Okay, from there we're going to do lip bubbles or lip trills, and I know that these are difficult for some people too. So you really want to monitor their client and see what they can and cannot do. So for the lip bubbles, it's kind of like the gargling where we're going to start with no voicing. So I would demonstrate and show them. And once they feel comfortable with the voicing or without voicing, you're going to move on to voicing. And you just want to continue to remind them that this is just right here in the lips. So they are probably on this going to be more focused on their lips bubbling and moving than they are about the voice coming with it. So they would do. After that, we can make it fun and we can add some sirens and glides with the lip trills, and they can go. So once we've completed skill number 1 with the lip bubbles, we can go on to the articulated airflow of skill number 1. And so first we would start with our voiceless phonemes. And we can just remind them right here that these don't have voice with it. So just think about the shape they're making with your mouth and your airflow. So they would repeat k, f, k, k, s, t, p. And so we would show them that, hey, these are some sounds that you can make without your voice even being on. And so remind them that it's all about the shape right here and the airflow that they're making. Once they have that, we're going to use our airflow and support those voiceless phonemes by lengthening them out. So they would lengthen out or prolong these sounds. So they would prolong s, f, sh. And here we would continue to remind them that it's all right here and it's about our airflow. Okay, from there, you're going to do those same fricatives that you prolonged, but you're going to start them, you're going to do loud and soft and do glides with them. So I could do like or or we could just do and show them that they can change their support of the air and how much air they're using for each sound to change how loud the sound is. From here, we're going to go back. We're going to do voiceless phrases in conversation, but we want to remind them of how we used our tissue to show our airflow on the tissue to make sure that they remember, oh yeah, we're creating a great stream of airflow. And that's what's going to help us get our voice out. So we're going to say, move your lips and your tongue around the stream of air that you've already created. so they can remember they've already created this airflow. So let's just move our articulators and our voice, or no, and our lips and our tongue around that airflow we've created so that we can move this tissue and do other words. So I would model again, I would do the U prolongation again, and even do it quiet, like ooh, ooh, and it's still moving the tissue. So we would do sentences that allow for easy airflow, such as poo, loo, poo, loo. And while I'm instructing this, I'm going to really want to model an easy whisper. And so I can kind of be on the same level as the client who may be aphonic, and be on the same level playing as them, so I don't feel like I'm overbearing them with my loud voice. So when I'm teaching this, I would say, okay, we're going to use our tissue, and we're going to use our controlled airflow and just shape our lips and our tongue around this airflow that you've already created, and let's do these phrases. So we would say, poo, loo, poo, loo, who is Lou, who is Sue, who are you? And they can watch how the airflow really moves around on the tissue, and so they can see that the airflow that they've created is working to help produce their sound as well. So once they've mastered that, we can move on to skill number 2, and that is breathy phonation. And we would start with our unarticulated part. So this would be the U prolongation, and this time we're going to produce voice, and we're still going to use the tissue as feedback. So we would do a breathy voice for the U, but they still want to see the airflow here, so they can be reminded of the airflow, and that's all on the lips. We're just adding a little bit of voice in. So it's ooh, ooh, and that's going to move the tissue as well. And then we can also do our voiced lip bubbles again to kind of get them to turn their voice on and have the airflow coming out of their lips. And then we would move on to skill number 2, breathy phonation, articulated. And for this, we're gonna go from voiceless phonemes or sounds to voiced sounds. And so I would demonstrate and show them, as a lot of this is demonstrating, so they can really see what we're looking for and what they need to practice. So for these, we would do s, z, f, v, f, v, sh, j. And so they can practice those going from voiceless to voice on, and that can be with their breathy phonation. And then also from there, we're going to do our phrases and conversation and remind them again about our tissue and our airflow, and it's all coming from the lips and the airflow that's being produced. And we're going to do the same phrases as before, but you can add a little bit more support. So you're going to need to take more breaths when you're doing these phrases, because there's more breathiness needed here. So we're going to have to really produce more breath with it. And there should be energy right here at the lips. So if we continue to remind them about the lips, then that will help them be able to produce the sound. So we would do poo, loo, poo, loo. And that's going to be a little bit more voicing than we had at the last step on skill 1. And then moving on to skill 3, we have our flow phonation. And so with our unarticulated, first we're going to do the U prolongation and the kazoo sound. So we're going to make this sound louder and not as breathy as the last step. And sometimes with this, it's easier to start breathy and then transition to the flow. So we can demonstrate that for them and start more breathy and then get the full flow. And you can really use your tissue for that too. So we could go, ooh, ooh. So they can see that more support and breath and can produce more flow phonation right there. And then right here, we can also try to do negative practice, and we can describe to them that negative practice is whenever we're going to use our old voice and practice this with our old voice and then change and do it with our new voice, so they can see the transition that they have made. And so then they can see the progress that they have made and be confident and proud of the difference they've already made with this flow phonation technique. And so we could do, if their old voicing is, they kind of had a breathy voice, aphonic, we could do ooh, ooh. But then whenever we do our new voice, we could go ooh, ooh, so they can really see the transition that they have made. And then also with this, like I said earlier, you can start breathy and then go to flow. So I could go ooh, ooh, so they can feel the transition in their throat. And then we move on to the articulated version. And so we would do voiceless to voiced fricatives. So you'd get louder and increase the pitch. So we would do so that was just getting louder, but if you wanted to increase the pitch, I would instruct them on the voice sound to move their voice up. So you go those are kind of difficult, but that was what we would instruct them to really think about, using their lips and their airflow, and then that would help them to turn on their voice and raise their pitch. So we can get a full range of sounds there. Then for here, we would also do in the articulated phrase and conversation. So we'd use the same ones as before, and we could use our negative practice. So just like we did with the unarticulated U prolongation, we can talk about their old voice, and now we're going to change it to our new voice. And so we can practice these phrases with our old voice. So for this client, we would do poo, loo, poo, loo. And now with their new voice, we can go poo, loo, poo, loo. So they can be confident and see that their voice has changed and that they are making progress. So then we're going to move on to our last and final skill, number 4, which is articulatory precision. And we would instruct the client right here to maintain the feeling of the airflow they've created, and make sure you're thinking about the front of your mouth. And so we would tell them, hey, let's pretend like you were speaking clearly to a person who is hard of hearing. So that would help them to really articulate each sound and think about the sound they're creating. So an example sentence would be, Fat Fred prefers French fries. And then we have, see Sammy slither in the grass. And so right there, they were going to think about all of their movements right here at the lip and creating those sounds with their airflow that's really strong. And then from there, we would move to conversation, and they can discuss just anything about their day or something that I have them say. But if you hear them start getting tight at the end of a phrase or a string of sounds, we're going to instruct them to add a p at the end. And so that's going to prevent tightening up. And so I say, I'm going to the grocery store. See how it got tight at the end? We're going to instruct them to do a p at the end. So that helps them increase their airflow and release the p sound, so they have airflow coming. So I would say, I am going to the grocery store. P. And so those are the 4 skills of flow phonation, and not all of these will be done in one session, but that is one of the techniques we can use to get the client to use their airflow and produce their voice around their tongue and lips and articulators.